Hello, Dr. Javed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we'll start. As we go on, I think people will join. Okay, right. So,
Sure.
a very good morning to one and all. Welcome to the MHRD-IIC event on Expert Talk on Process of Innovation, Development, Technology Readiness Level (TRL), Commercialization of Lab Technologies and Tech Transfer. Today we have with us Dr. Javed GS. Dr. G.S. Javed is an analog IC designer manager with 14 plus years of experience in design, layout, and characterization of analog IC circuits. Since 2020, he is the technical and execution lead at Analog at Intel India. He received his MS and PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 2016. He worked on low power integrated instrumentation circuits for sensing applications. In 2015, he founded King Consultants Education to work on design thinking and experiential learning. He also is an advisor and guide for PhD aspirants. From 2016 to 2020, he led the team on high-speed circuits and managed a team of 10 plus designers at Terminus Circuits Private Limited. From 2012 to 2016, he was a senior research fellow at Indian Institute of Science working on integrated sensor interfaces. He has over 20 peer-reviewed journals and IEEE conference publications to his credit. He has published patents too. He is also an active speaker and motivator on analog circuit design, high-speed interface design, design thinking, entrepreneurship, research methodologies, and technical writing, and spirit of entrepreneurship. He is a senior member of IEEE since 2016 and he was inducted into IEEE Eta Kappa Nu, the Honor Society of IEEE for Academic Excellence. Now I request Dr. Javed to enlighten us on the topic called Expert Talk on Process of Innovation Development Technology Readiness Level, Commercialization of Lab Technologies and Tech Transfer. Over to you, Dr. Javed.
Thank you, Dr. Swapnil, for such a wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Thank you for giving me this opportunity to collaborate on the Institute Innovation Council and MHRD's activity at Dayanand Sagar College of Engineering. So I'll be glad to take you through a short journey on what are these four aspects. So in brief, what we will be covering today are topics called translational research, where you would begin with an innovation development, understand what is technology readiness levels, then see what kind of products can get commercialized from the lab technology, and finally leading to a technology transfer. So let's begin with something called the innovation life cycle, and that will lead to technology readiness level. Innovation life cycle has got four parts, and each of this has a different phase in time. The first one is where you are building the technology, and typically it is only containing the innovators. Second is when you look at product zone, where you build this technology, build a product, and make it for the market and introduce it into the market. So that is your adopters or your product zone. Third is when once the product is a little bit more established inside the market, you build a platform for it, and that platform becomes your early majority group, which leads it. So this is called a platform innovation. Finally, once the platform is built, you are looking at sustaining it for a very long period and ensuring that percolates into the market. That is called your sustainability zone, where you are looking at customer intimacy and operational excellence. So these are the typical points of an innovation life cycle. Now, once you have an innovation life cycle, you need to understand what is the technology life cycle. There is a very good correlation between the innovation and the technology life cycle. There are two kinds of parameters that you typically look when you're working on either the technology life cycle. One is the potential of competition and the risk level. Other one is the amount of maturity level that it has reached up to. So if you see, the maturity level is lowest during the emerging phase, where there is a risk is higher. As the maturity increases, that means as the growth increases and the risk level starts reducing, you start growing. When the risk level kind of tapers down to a very narrow point, you see that the mature innovation or the technology has reached the mature phase. After the mature phase, rather than declining phase, you would actually call this as a saturation phase or a stable phase. The declining is regarding the risk level that you would see maximum risk is out of the picture, and you have a very high competition and competitiveness, and you take it from there. Once you understand the technology life cycle, comes the importance of what is your readiness level or your technology readiness level. So, to understand technology readiness level, you start again, giving an example. You start from having the papers about it, you file patents regarding a technology, ensure that news regarding that technology spreads. So, once that is happening, you enter the technology life cycle phase where you see that you can build the maturity in the product as you go from low maturity to sustainability phase. In that, you pass through the various phases of technology readiness level where it becomes from TR0 typically to TR9. TR0 is both at an initial phase where you are kind of exploring the object, and then you hit a place where the POC is developed, all the way through where you can do sustainable marketing and market uh, penetration. So, to give you a quick understanding, we will spend a little more time on understanding what are the technology readiness levels in the form of the innovation chain. The innovation change basically means when you start from the TR1 on the far left to going to the TR9 in the far right. What are these areas? And we will also explain or correlate where is the knowledge development and where is the technology development coming, and what are the various contributions expected from the academia, the industry, and the various other bodies supporting that particular ecosystem. First thing you have to understand is you will try and build a basic technology research. So this phase begins from TR1 all the way to TRL3, where you are understanding the influences of all of these. Once the TR1 reaches to TR2 phase, you will start exploring. Can you explore the feasibility of market? And that is when you will work from a good overlap between technology research and feasibility between TR2 and TR3. Once you hit when you are able to prove the feasibility, you will look at demonstrating the work. At the demonstration work is where you are looking for partners, you are engaging into various other ecosystem partners for you, and also raising money to get the investment into the funds. So typically what you see is at an academic level or at an institute level, the innovation and everything is more on developing the knowledge about it and creating a proof of concept such that the technology development partners can come in and scale it up. So this is where the academia will hand off to the ecosystem partners. So knowledge development happens till about three stages: TRL1 to TRL3. Then you build the technology development starting from TRL4 to TRL6. This is where you have your technology development coming in, technology partners, finance, legal, understanding the market survey, understanding what is the demand in the market, to see can you build the technology, can you scale it, can you refine it. So once you are able to refine it, you will be able to understand how it will take through. So the way you look at it is technology demonstration will come, and then you start building on the prototypes. So the prototype stage is your TRL5 and TRL6 when the prototype development happens. This is where you need intense collaboration with your tech partners. And right now you are at the phase where uh, POC is developed, the product market survey is done, understanding your revenue streams is multi. A business model needs to be developed at that phase where you are going to hand it off to a business development team, or typically do a technology transfer. Technology transfer comes where you have proven that this technology works, you have identified that there is a demand in the industry, and then you will pass it on to an industry partner who would probably take it and scale it up and ensure that revenue is generated using this. So this is called your business development. It is at this place that you have to do a pilot plan, you have to work on your scale up strategies, then comes your market launch and complete commercialization. So you start from the academia, then begin with the collaboration with the industry and other technology development partners, and then you come to the industry. This technology development partners play a very key role, and this is right now has a very prominent place. So this could be one of your incubators that you might have in your incubation centers, where you would incubate them, where they would give you support for finance support, they would give you infrastructure support, they would give you compute support, and ensure that you are able to grow this. So this is the innovation chain that you work typically. Now let us look about the importance of investment in innovation. So there are the investment of innovation comes into three pictures. One is your initial investment, where an academia typically works with a grant or a project grant and builds that. So once you build it, that is when you have to develop a proof of concept. That is when you it hits the valley of death. Typically, this is the place wherein the product market fit and scale up strategies are evaluated. So you have to do a proof of concept. You should do a technology validation in the lab, and then come up with a technology validated in a relevant environment, and finally demonstrate it. So once you uh, successfully cross levels 4, 5, and 6, then comes your scale up when you do your system prototype and scale. Typically, most of your technology, if not done correctly, die down in this valley. Okay, and you understand. Now, if you encounter that one of your projects has sit into this valley of readiness, what could you do? You could try and see what can you do and what can you understand. So this is where we call the challenge basin, where the philosophy is there that you have good resources both at the inventing phase and the commercializing phase, but you really need a lot of resources in the development phase in the challenge basin. What do? You try and see, can you get an additional technology push a further insight. Once you're able to get technology push, you can see that the innovation ecosystem will try and support your infrastructure development, so your resource value will slightly go up. And once you're slightly going up, you would try and get a initial technology pull by pulling in all your technology partners and all the existing commercialization resources to back you up. When you back it, you try and reduce the time from the market to the technology pull and build the commercialization activities. So at this phase, you move from inventing to commercialization. This is a time intensive, money intensive, and documentation intensive phase, because once you beat this mark, you are very ready to hit the market, and you are in a very aggressive manner challenging the market, going into attention and ensuring that you get a lot more customer value and you're able to propose a customer value. So once like we mentioned that there is a valley of death. Once the value of death is proved, meaning you have a proof of concept that is demonstrated in a similar lab, that is when the startup industry start growing. It is at this place that you engage with startups, or you build your own startup, and you start looking at co-founders, investors, angel investors, VCs who are trying to invest into their work, where they are trying to get into the market. So what you do is, once the proof of concept is done, once you exit the valley of death, you are typically breaking even. And to come out of this valley of death, typically you need a seed capital. This is where incubators play a really good role. Having a good incubator with a solid understanding of technology and understanding what is the time that is needed to develop this technology is working. Here is when you have equity crowdfunding and you have a lot of lending process happening. Once you do that, and once you break even and understand that your concept is right, you come through the first rounds of early stage financial raising. Okay, round one, seed A fund, or the initial funding. These are the terms that are probably used here. Once you have these funds and you're reaching up, you would go with your round two of funds, or your seed B funds, or your leveraging, understanding what is the early stage and late stage funds, and start hitting a phase where you're reaching up good revenues also in the market. And then you try and bootstrap and get back some of your profits back into your marketing stream, your development stream, business development stream, and you sustain the market for a quite a lot of place. So once you hit the second stage, this is place where you get offers of mergers and acquisitions. People would like to acquire your product. So bigger companies acquire your product. Sometimes a smaller company might want to merge with you and then take you forward. So this is here where your late stage strategic alliances come into the picture and acquisitions come. And if you have sustained yourself from not getting acquired for a very long time and your product has really good, that is when you hit the IPO. The moment you hit the IPO, you are in a public market. You are now kind of already having multiple crores of business revenue, and you have also shown that you have got significant amount of returns coming in for your investment, right? This is where your market plays into the picture, and you start working with large scale acquisitions and mergers going forward. After that, it comes your secondary offerings, where you bring up a second round of products in your company, third round of products, and develop that going forward. So if you see, it is very important that in the middle, where you have the just as you're exiting the valley of death, once you have all of the seed capital raised and the initial first investment done, you are able to jump in. Alternatively, there are some teams who said, we do not want to take any angel investment. We do not want to dilute our stock. What we do is we will try and bootstrap, meaning take the profits of the initial sales, bring it back into the research and development or in the development phase, and utilize such that we do not dilute our stock very early. Then once we go into the phase where you're getting the seed A round or a seed B round, you get a lot more value for the shares that you're going to give and the percentage of acquisitions. A typical stage of getting the first or second round or the third round of investment is an example where I would give. You have your shark tank coming into the picture, where the you have already hit the second milestone. You've already got a lot of products into the one product into the market. You're making some sales and you really want to scale. So at that point of time, you would go to a shark tank or a think tank or a large investor, where you would call as your strategic alliance or your VCs, venture capitalists, and ensure that you're going further ahead. While doing all of this, it is very important to plan. And there are three important aspects that I would like to share with you what regarding planning. Planning helps you to identify potential risks and also reduce the risk by taking proper risk mitigation. Always ensure that do not have a huge milestone gap between each other. Between each large milestone, you need to have micro milestones or smaller tasks to ensure that you're going in the right direction, and ensure that if you need to take a corrective measure, you can do it. Because having a large milestone gap does not help it. Second, what you can do is reducing what are the project failure rates. What do you think are project failure rates? Project failure rates can be something that you look into the aspects of checking out what are the scope. Is the proper scope laid out? Do you have the proper timeline? Costs, deliverables, and details are available, and are the expectations set or the assumptions are set? Just to give you an example, what I could do is, what do I mean by giving a smaller milestones or having smaller milestones between large milestones is equivalent to having large steps like this. So this could be your milestone that you're looking at, right? And this could be your milestone that you're looking at on the other side. So these could be your two milestones that you're looking forward to working on. But what would happen is, when you're working on these kinds of milestones, you need to know what are the intermediary steps. So typically people, or I would suggest, is have smaller steps such that you can take them and reach. This takes more time and you do not have checkpoints to hear. In this particular case, you have micro milestones to test. what is the phase at which you are going, are you doing it in the right place, or do you need to take a leap farther or not. So this helps you mitigate risk, right? And it also helps you keep on track. Your tracking can be a little closer and better, and it also shows that you have proceeded further in time. Because if you only go with the two milestones, you are right now working with only one past work. You are not working with too many different changes that are going to be coming into the picture. For example, if this was your only milestone, this would be your second milestone at best. So what can you do? By having these, you can generate intermediary milestones and keep a track and inform or track yourself and tell the team that you are now inching closer to your second milestone. And always having this intermediary inching closes always gives you a boost that there is a progress with respect to time. This is very important for your planning, and having this also helps you understand what is your correlation with the expenditure that you're going through and what is the cost that you're going to look for. Do you need more expenditure or do you need less cost? And that assumptions can be traded off. So this helps you doing is uh, avoids the unrealistic project expectations. You will not be impatient because you know you are moving for each milestone, and sometimes when you do not have understanding, it will avoid. So planning helps all of these milestones. Now, very important in planning or any project planning, this you could use also for your master's thesis, and you could also use for your PhD thesis while you are working on. And this definitely can also be used in your BE final year project on what you can do. You can always understand what is the charter scope, right? What is the kind of project you want to do, and there. Then you build a time schedule. Say if you need a 6 month schedule, 3 month schedule, or a 12 month schedule, pick whichever is your schedule that you want and go along with that. Once you do that, you can identify the project resource and see do you have enough resources or there is a gap. So that way you can identify and fill the gaps in your resource management. Once you identify the plan for the resource gap, you can see if the project budget allows you to do that. Along with the project budget, you will also have to understand that there is going to be a time budget also. Do you have that? Then you build your project quality. In the project quality, you understand what are the checklists that you'll have to do, right? And what are the streams that you need to mention. And then you can start building these checks and ensure that you can start checking them off as you have your project. Once your project quality is risk, you can understand where is the project risk coming from, right? Where is a risk factor? Is it a resource risk where you have you do you have are the people moving out, or do you find a shortage of money, or do you need infrastructure like computing and others with yourself? So identify which one of these are there, and then you can start addressing them, looking into forward. Finally comes your project communication, which could be your reporting, right? Or it could be your patent, or it could be your paper that you would like to publish, or it could be your white papers, which you would like to simply communicate with the general audience. Once you do all of these, you're now in a very good phase. And this kind of a planning you can also apply for your academic pursuits. Next, we would quickly talk about what is the technology transfer. Technology is you first build your technology proof of concept, okay, and then you do a demonstration of it, and then you build once you that is ready, you build a technology transfer exercise which is called transfer of technology or TOT to the industry, and this industry community will ensure that they take it finally to all the industry communities that are available and all the people that are available who can get benefited with this activity. Let's go into a little detail how in the academic world you could probably begin with. So this is where you would start off your research activity saying the academic discovery and creation of a new technology. So this is where you are looking at pathfinding, and you understand that in this pathfinding you need to come across what is the new activities. This is the exploratory phase. And once you exploratory phase, you report the innovation. How do you report it? You either report it with a patent or you report it with a paper publication to the world. So once a patent is filed and or a paper publication is done, you understand that you next need to go to triage and evaluate the technology. So what is the evaluation structure? Evaluation structure is, do you have the revenue or do you have the market understanding for this? Then once you understand, you protect it IP further. See, did you miss anything when you're reporting the invention? And then you further go ahead with copyright, plant rights, and trade secrets. So protect it from all sides. So your patent is your core. So once you have a patent, then you see, do you need additional protection of it by filing additional patents? Once your additional patents are done, then you look at how do you build the market for it or build the proof of concept. Then you work on the market that you develop and package it in such a way that it is ready for the market, and you finally go for a launch. So this is what happens here. You analyze the market opportunity by building the POC, then market it. You do the initial study here. Reach out to any of the potential partners or your technology development partners. And these technology development partners are the ones who are going to give you the initial signs, right? And with these initial signs, then you see, do you strike a deal with them with licenses? That means you would like to give your product to them so they can develop, or you yourself would try to prototype it and then venture into the market on your own and leave it. So these are the two directions that they would go. Either give the optional IP, sell it as a one-time deal to the industry, or license it. And this is where comes your commercialization aspect. And if you always see, this is a feedback mechanism always. So you will always have feedback from all your points to see, do you need to redo, reinvent, or repackage the same depending upon the market needs and interest. So this allows you to do the particular activity. Now once you do this, I will probably show you that commercialization comes into picture where you need to understand how much money goes into it, what all the product goes into it. So this is where the commercialization comes in, where you will have to test. What is this test? Test for market, test for system, test for compliance, test for standards, right? Uh, you have to have various compliance mechanisms with the industry and go through. Once you do this, then only you can reach out to the community. Now, let me briefly, in the next 10 slides, go through at least 5 of the companies which started up at IAC as an idea and then went on to build their own companies and deliver. There are some which are not built in IAC, but definitely have encouraged, got additional support from the various departments and senior professors of Indian Institute of Science. So the first one I would talk is on medical diagnostics. So this is a work which started off with the faculty member and their PhD student who really wanted to bring an extremely simple, low cost point of care device typically used for various biomedical diagnostics. You could do a lot of tests, and this is one of the expensive tests which they have now brought it down to a really low cost, which is your glycosylated hemoglobin, or called HbA1c, which is a really good test for diabetes mellitus, or people generally say type 2 diabetes mellitus evaluation. So if your number is greater than, say, the count is 7 or 6 in some cases, you are categorized as being categorized as being diabetic. So this is one of the wonderful products. They started off with this new product called Anupat, where they had multiple test setups, and now this was given for a lot of screening centers where they work with many doctors and brought out the information. Later, they came up with Nano, which was for direct customer usage, where people could take up their for their own usage as a glucometer or this Nano. So this is a model for business to customers, and this is to business to government or business to business. So all your healthcare centers can be used. So this is a typical example of how big the product can go for a particular market. Another one is Pandorum Technologies. So Pandorum Technologies came up with this idea where they mimicked certain items on, for example, the eye, cornea, and the liver to ensure that people who wanted to test certain products can use their digital model or a digital twin to test their equipments rather than finding out real livers or real corneas in the system. So once they are able to digitally test these, they can evaluate this on their computers and their digital twin, and you will get feedback to it. Once this is done, then you can go into your actual real life trials. So this will help you reduce the real life trials and the difficulties that you face. So they came up with additive manufacturing where they brought out liver cells in 3D architectures and still they could build. Another one they had is a proprietary ECM is ECM mimetic scaffolds. They were able to build as a biomaterial. They brought up systems like how do you grow these systems in vitro, right? Where you can have human body like conditions for growing liver tissues. So this is called microfluidics, where they would probably use within glass or these ensure you can mimic these fluids into a system. Further, understanding all of these can be possible only have a very deep understanding of cell biology. And here you could see the PhD graduates of IIC who incubated this startup in CCAMP in National Center of Biological Sciences or NCBS. Another one is on the again on the sensor side, which is I2N technology. So they built these hybrid packaging technologies and various other systems using MEMS pressure sensor. So this one was started by one of the faculty members of Indian Institute of Science, Professor Rudra Pratap, and done. So this is from Sense and Mechanical Engineering departments of Indian Institute of Science. So you could look up, and some of these pressure sensors were are being used in LCA Tejas, light combat aircraft Tejas, by the Indian Air Force for their high pressure measurement, either both internal to the aircraft and both external to the aircraft. Then is comes Bellatrix Aerospace. This is a wonderful group where they were building thrusters, nano satellites, and green propulsion systems for them. They have really worked very hard. These are the two CEOs, Rohan Ganapati and Yashash Karanam, who work the CTO and CEO of Bellatrix Aerospace. And these are their products. This is your green propulsion system. This is your nano satellite, and this is their high effect thruster. So these are the three products that they have, and you can expect them that they'll be. They just did the launch in January 2024. Just in the new year, they had their very first launch with PSLV C58 in the for this Rudra and Arca product, and the earlier Arca product went on the PSLV C55 in April of 2023. And they are really some of the leading people in the private aerospace industry, which is really a niche space that they are looking at and doing wonders by that scaling. Next is Azuka Life Sciences. So Dr. Fatima Benazir, who's now created multiple mRNA based systems, created something fantastic during the COVID, where they created a rapid detection kit, which was a LAMP assay with isothermal amplification based system to tell you can you test multiple people in COVID tests. So there are many possibilities that you would have used one of these uh, strips or these methods or test kits for COVID detection, and you would have seen these in the airports and other place. So they were one of the other companies among many others who came up with this mass life sciences. So this also shows how investment they did and brought in right out. And this is the kits which really helps, that they are able to do it in 30 minutes. They're able to tell you whether there is a positive or negative, but they will not be able to tell you what is the intensity of the infection that you have. It is only to say yes or no so that you can take an action. Next one is an oxygen concentrator. During the second wave of COVID, when people were struggling with getting a lot of oxygen cylinders, Professor Praveen C. Ramamurthy's team from the Department of Material Engineering came up with an oxygen concentrator. What is an oxygen concentrator? Typically, oxygen in the atmosphere is about 20%. So now what they try is they try and concentrate a lot of oxygen in 1 liter. In 1 liter of a gas, they will try and increase about 95% of the concentrator. And if you see on the top right hand side, this was the various developmental phases at which they were trying to build the system. And this is the final version which they have. And now they are commercializing this facility at Mysore, where they have a lot of this understanding and they are building the system. Another vaccine development which happened during the month of during COVID was a very good company called Minvax, which was one of the very many companies which was trying to develop a COVID-19 vaccine in India, and this is their setup. And they came up with multiple solutions. So they came up with a recombinant subunit vaccine for SARS-CoV-2. So their timeline was they were able to generate the first vaccine candidate in 4 months. They started building the production technology within 8 months, and by 12 months they were ready to initiate the first phase one of human clinical trials. And if you see like this, they have been very much appreciated by globally and as well as in India, and listed by multiple uh, news agencies within India during COVID time. Another of these activities which was built within IAC was a mobile diagnostic lab facility, which is approved by Indian Council of Medical Research (ICMR). So this was basically a mobile infection testing and reporting lab. As you can see, there are three vans which are placed within or in front of the IAC main building as a dedication to the government, where they're able to do multiple of these lab tests. And there was one such lab maintained within the campus of India. So this is called the Mitra labs, which is your mobile infection and testing and reporting labs. And you could see one of the test persons can sit inside the lab, perform those tests using this glove box. This is called a glove box, where you would keep the chemical inside, such that the environment is extremely controlled, and you handle it using these gloves inside, such that any leakage will be limited to this particular box. And here you would have the technician operating this inside the glove box. One very commercial aspect which came up really well was General Aeronautics came up by using drones to disinfect many of the hard areas. For example, you really needed to have a widespread disinfection, and you could implement. Here you see one of the drones right opposite the Vidhan Soda in Bangalore, where General Aeronautics was helping BBMP to disinfect many areas, ensure that the hard to reach areas were there, and they are able to do it rapidly in a short duration with multiple such drones or quadcopters they could use. Uh, then came another ventilator technology development. It was a grand activity which happened, where the departments of aerospace, electronics and electrical communication engineering, sense, and the center for product design and management CPDM, the faculties from all these departments contributed in developing a test or a system where you could use an equivalent of a ventilator technology, or at least take it to as close to as a medical grade technology. So multiple patents were filed both in US and in India for this one. And I was happy to be part of one of these people building the sensors and also working on this. So I'm glad to be a project of Project Prana, which was done at IAC and developed this particular technology. So, in finally, what I would like to give that as a takeaway for the students who are attending this session, I would say you can start with the technology innovation, go through planning, ensure that your investment for innovation comes into the picture at the right point of time. Then you have the technology readiness or technical readiness, build the technology transfer, and finally commercialization of the product comes into the picture. So this is the entire life cycle that starts from technology innovation ending up at commercialization. At college level, ensure that you're at least able to get one of these technologies to a technology transfer, if not for commercialization. Thank you very much. You have been a great audience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Javed, for sharing your valuable knowledge and experiences. Any questions from audience? We can take one or two. Okay, I have one question. Let's say I am an undergrad student in first year.
Yes.
So,
Mhm,
how should I proceed for this TRL levels and commercialization? And let's say I have some innovation in my mind. So, how to proceed with
mhm.
that?
So the easiest way of doing that is first of all, coming up says, is there a value for that work? If there is a value, who would be the potential people who would pay and get that solution from your side? Because once you do that, then is when patenting them, protecting them creates value. So if you're an undergraduate student coming up with a unique solution, first you need to find out what and where can this get benefited in your industry, or where who can benefit. Once you get that, you can take up to the next stages. Or you, once you're building this technology or this new solution, see that each step what you can do is first write a report which documents who can benefit, what is the use case, what is the current market existing solution, how are you bettering that particular solution with your solution proposal, then you will be able to take it forward.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now we are at the end of the event. We thank Dr. Javed, who shared his valuable experiences and knowledge on the topic. We also thank DSCE IIC, under which this event is organized. We thank Dr. B.G. Prasad, Principal DSCE, Dr. Sumavi, Vice Principal, Dr. H.K. Ramaraju, Vice Principal, Dr. Ramesh Babu, Vice Principal, Dr. T.C. Manjunath, HOD, EC Department. At last, we would like to thank the participants without whom this program would not have been possible. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good day ahead.
Sir,
Somebody
excuse
had
me,
a
sir.
question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So I'm still in first year. Is there any place where I can join projects like this for experience?
Yes, the easiest place to look for within your college, you have the incubation center. So typically, most of the companies or the products, the students who have incubated there will definitely need some help. So you can probably reach out to them and give your services as a learning experience to help them in some of their projects that they have. So that would be the easiest way.
Sir, what about these kind of big projects?
Big projects, generally, if you have the right skill set with you and if you are ready to contribute, most of these companies would probably take you, or these people would take in your work, because uh, for them also the time is valuable and they will be running against a deadline to work with their various advisors and their venture capitalist support people. So if you really want to do it, you will have to start early, gain the right skill set where you could put into use, and you can take it further.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So Rohit, you have a question? Yes.
Sir, can students like us join projects at IISc, contribute to them?
You can, but like again I said, do you have the right skill set to do that? Because right now, if you are in your first or second year of engineering, your typical background is your PUC, right? Pre-university education. So if you have the right skill set for them, you can definitely do that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, and would the process be approaching the student committee or the professor in charge?
There are two ways of doing it. Typically, if you really want to engage with them, reach out to the people who are building the product, not the professor, because they would be the one who could help you with. Now, if you want an internship, then you will have to go to the professor. And these particular works typically do not work on an internship model. So you would have to do it out of your interest to do it.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.